So I'm happy to invite Yuko Harayama to the stage, representing the Council for Science, Tech and Innovation in Japan. Talking about Society 5.0, it's been a long day, maybe you're a little tired, but I think you will have some interaction with the audience to keep us all active and going.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be a part of this 100 years anniversary of EVA. Long history, and you are at the end of the day, probably tired. But I try to invite you to think about the future, probably 100 years, but much less. And linked to the previous speakers, I try to invite you to think about how to design our future and how to take actions, because our action will force the way we will moving into the next generation. So let's start about talking about Society 5.0, something abstract. But to start with, let's move to late 2014. As a former IBAS current member of the Council of Science and Innovation, I have been requested with my colleagues by the Prime Minister Abe to prepare what we called Fifth Science Technology Basic Plan, which will cover 2016 to 2020, 5-year planning, what we should do in terms of investment in science and innovation. Remember, late 2014, where we were in Japan. We are at the first phase of reconstruction of big Tohoku area earthquake and accompanied with the Fukushima disaster. And this within the context of economic downturn. It's difficult to be optimistic in this way. And if you look at the world, what happened, you do remember, we saw the emergence of Ebola epidemic and many devastating conflict. So sometimes we had the impression that our democracy was on a tree. So how to foresee the future, even in the coming 5-10 years? Good news was that we saw hype of digital transformation around the corners with all its potential, transforming our society and gaining benefits for human beings. So in this case, how to work to prepare this fifth basic plan. You may say, okay, we can proceed business as usual. That means first step, you will assess what you have achieved by the past, and then just check what you didn't achieve. And then second step will be benchmarking. You see all around the world who are doing what in European countries, in the US, Africa, other countries. And say, who are your competitors? Thinking about their strategy. And saying you have identified a gap between you and top runners. Still, we tend to be catch-up strategy. And then by the end, you say you formulate your roadmap. By the end, to achieve economic growth. It's business as usual. Another way, you may be guided by new thinking, new approaches, and it's exactly what we did. So move from the traditional way, business as usual, new way, is really starting with long discussions, gathering expert and thinking, and say we have identified the way we used to be is technology-driven. Of course, Japan knew success story that in 1970, 1980, and it was thanks to the guys. But today, what we need is not only technology-driven approaches, but more, as my former speakers talk about, it's more human-centered. Because finally, what's for? It's we have to think about human at the center of the story, and around the human, we need to think about strategy of technology. Of course, we have to formulate what we should do in terms of scientific innovation, so society backed by STI. And if you look at on the world, what's happening, emergence, it's really the hype of AI, big data, IoT, and robotics, and so on and so. But not only this technology. Of course, we have the potential. At the same time, you guys, engineers, you have to think about not only your technology, but also to be socially responsible. So accompanying technology with social and both. It's not up to the sociologist, it's not up to the social scientist to think about it, but we have to think all together. And most fundamentally, as you know that everything changes so rapidly, what we need is really having some core shared value. And which one? We have identified openness first, not to be inside yourself, but to be open. Second one is, of course, sustainability. Sustainability not only in terms of environment, but sustainability in terms of social sustainability, political sustainability, economic sustainability. So from different perspectives, think about sustainability. And by the end, inclusiveness. Because we see inequality becoming a key issue, and instead of reducing inequality, with our advancement in society, we tend to increase inequality. So how to solve this problem is to have thinking about not to be on your club, but having an approach based on inclusiveness. That's a key. This means you have to think about everybody should be on board. And in particular, if you look at the Japanese society, with aging society, I've been recently part of this aging society. But finally, you have to think about society as a whole, and then including gender issues and so. So all these, we may say, guiding principle should lead our attitude to work to prepare the fifth basic plan. By doing so, we said at the beginning, we had really starting from very fundamental questions. That's, I can say, progress. What does it mean for humanity? And for that, we need to take long view on human history. That's why we start from the beginning. Let's say, gathering and hunting society. And it's so critical to think about from the beginning, because by the end of the day, we recognize that within the society, human was living in symbiosis with the nature, by necessity to really ensure the continuity of a species that is human. Second step was to move to agrarian society. You know, curiosity and explorations are integral part of human nature, and not satisfied to be dependent of nature. Humans tend to work on nature, and where we were able to really manage small parts of nature to dominate. And then since then, it was translated in terms of a new style, new form of society. And you have been working group And then next step was later on with the invention of steam engine. We have heard about today and yesterday. It was at the beginning not so impactful in terms of society, social impact, but by the end it was transformative of not only in terms of productions, but in terms of social organization. Not only, by the past, when we were at Society 2.0, we were using our power and animals' powers. But next step was mastering power by human being. So let's move this transformation, allowing our type of economic activities. Mass production was able to have mass production, and it makes very old economic structure transformed based on the capital, based on the investments, and then we have a structure, existing structure, society now. And 1919, the born of Eva, you started with this new technological paradigm. And I know that you have been able to evolve your institution to join this 4.0, where we are today. Information society, you know that our everyday life, now, what's the source of creation of the value? It's really moving from tangible into intangible. And you are a strong user, consumer, and producer of information. So we are part of the story. And our dependency into connectivities seems to be irreversible. You can't survive without your smartphone any single day. The way you work, the way you interact with others depend on this stuff, and behind you have AI and big data. So where we are, it's very transformative, and we are just at the beginning of the story. So we are moving every day, changing, evolving every day, and we may think about what could be the next. So we called Society 5.0, not yet realized, something unknown, but to be built based on the guiding principle I just explained to you. That means we will be constructing 5.0 altogether. That's the message. Expectation. Thinking in terms of Society 5.0, what we will try to achieve could be something like that. So science, technology, and innovation may contribute to, of course, what we try to do is not only achieving economic growth, but at the same time, increasing well-being. So by the past, we had some kind of a dichotomy, economic growth or social well-being. But we have to be really innovative in the way to achieve both at the same time, and we should be very strategic to do that. The key is we are not saying that these two directions are not mutually exclusive. Second point is really we need to think about how to address societal challenges. And this is not only the affair of the government, but mostly the affair of everybody. That means include private sectors. And think about corporate social responsibility. It's much beyond this one. And finally, we have to achieve global prosperity, and probably we have to be in line with SDGs, Social Development Goals. So having said that, we try to propose a concept called Society 5.0. In short, it's a society, human-centered society, backed by science technology innovations, where people's well-being and happiness will come first, in short. It's a concept that means really difficult to tackle. So we need to have some ideas, some fields, to make sure that we will take action on that. So we set up some kind of exploratory fields backed by data infrastructures, because we will be beyond information society. So some key fields are like energy issues, disaster management, or we talk about mobility, intelligence, transport system, so and so. So these are the framework we try to experiment, and then to see if we can extend more globally. Also, at the government level, we identify key programs, and actually, the program is called Cross-Ministerial Strategic Innovation Promotion Program. It's very long, but key is identifying societal challenges and bringing, for each of them, bringing different stakeholders, not only private sector, academy, but also, it's possible, ordinary citizen, to formulate some kind of strategy to tackle these challenges and take action, and with some money coming from the governments. We talk about, with the last speaker, needs for narrative. I completely agree with that. And we need to bring all stakeholders to formulate this narrative. Some example I will show you by slide. Heading, for example, mobility. It was really a trial with a small group at the government, but ideally, it needs to be done by everybody. So that's challenges. And all the scenario narrative is backed by data system and use of AI and all technology, but trying to keep in mind the guiding principle I explained to you. That means we have to take human at the center. Key challenge, mobility, healthcare and caregiving, disaster preventions, and what was quite new for Japan was agriculture. Not only in the traditional way, but already bringing, including young people within, in a way that's really transforming agriculture sector as a new way to do business and new way to prevent and also keep our environment friendly. Some really thinking regarding to EVA's celebrations. As you understand now, we have to move beyond technology. That's a key. And we need to identify key action to make possible to take engineering people and also other stakeholders to think together going beyond technological challenges. To start with, we already talk about education. It's a key component because the way you train people will be really impactful for the next generation. And for that, we said, okay, it's almost impossible to transform existing infrastructure in terms of university curricula. But you may think about more in terms of the way of thinking. The way is that we have to, keyword is unlock our potentials. Because we believe that all our generation, young generation, they have huge potential. But when they pass through the school system and facing all the social norms, they become more inside-looking, and they have less possibility to express their view and then to be more potentially innovative. So let's say we have to encourage people to really challenge the existing norms. It's okay to challenge something new, and also to see what's coming next, and also to be able to explore synergy among different people with different backgrounds. Also, we have to think about not just from the rational point of view, but to be able to really engage empathy with people. That's key issues. Second point was really think about in terms of co-action. By co-action, I mean collaboration, working together, co-creation, creating together, and co-evolution, because we are moving, not just having a leader or followers, but we have to work together, evolve together. It's not only reserved to some specific category of stakeholders, but trying to mix different stakeholders, and this could be discussed in terms of technology and society. Of course, you will take your action locally, nationally, but you need to have interaction at the global level. So some said we have to think about STI for SDGs, or some Keidanren is the Association of Private Companies. They are pushing further, saying that Society 5.0 for SDGs, something that we have to take care. And that's, I repeat, we need shared narrative. Of course, we need to set up new social framework for that to facilitate, to move all together. And to do that, related to the AI progress, we have tackled discussing about not only AI in terms of technological advancements, but thinking about the use of AI and what could be the implication in terms of social implication, political and economical and so on. So we are able to finalize a kind of guiding principle. We call it Social Principle for Human-Centric Artificial Intelligence. That's kind of message from Japanese society into global society. To summarize, key is starting from the key value, the identified three: dignity, sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. It's very in line with Society 5.0 thinking, and behind you have human-centered approaches. Second point, now actually we talk about big data, but what is key is the quality of the data, capacity to have access to data. So message is data exchanges. Data could be considered as a public good. That means to be sure. Yes. For that, to facilitate data exchanges, Prime Minister Abe declared what he called data-free flow with trust. That's something that he has been proposing, and then probably we need to have very in-depth discussion. And also we have to have cross-domain data exchange platform. That's key platform for that. And I will add for the challenges, because we will be preparing in Japan what we called Bioeconomy Strategy 2019, and where you see the biotechnology cross-digital, course, ELSC, LC, that's mean ethical, legal, social issues. So the way we have to take account. So that slide, it's really, we have to make Society 5.0 a reality. It's not only for Japan. For that, engineers, we are playing a really instrumental role for this endeavor. And it's really, we have to resonating with the ever-evolving profession of engineering. So welcoming the discussion here. And what could be challenged is really opening the door for the next 100 years. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
In a way, I think you both summarized both of these days, because we've been touching upon these themes, and you also helped us to see the steps going forward. So we appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we have no time for interaction, so you will have to come back another time and do that with us.
Hopefully.